Is your first time with us, I want to show a massive welcome to you. Make sure that you let us know you are watching. Head into our comments, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious today. Are you like in bed? Do you watch from your sofa? Are you cooking your dinner? Like, I want to know. So let us know where you're watching from. It's my husband who is moderating today. His name is Edson, so show him some love as well. We've got an awesome Wednesday lined up for you today. It is actually full of some of my favorite people. So it's going to be incredible. We have got some throwback worship from my favorite worship leader, Angela, and one of my favorite people in the world is going to be bringing the word today. Her name is Emma, and she's sharing on We Are People of Hospitality. So right now, whatever you're doing, whether you are laying on the sofa or cooking your dinner, make sure you stand up because we are going to worship together with throwback worship. So stand up, get excited, and let's engage with God right now.
Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
meet us exactly where we are at. Whether we didn't bother to get dressed today or whether we've had a mental day out of the house, you are with us right now, God. And I just pray that every person who is watching right now will just feel a real sense of your presence with them in whichever room they're watching with, whether they're on their own or they're with friends or God. Thank you that you meet us in every scenario, no matter what our days look like, that you're here. We're so thankful for you, God. Amen. I told you, Angela is my favorite worship leader. She's awesome. So there's a couple of things I need to make sure you know before we move on to the most exciting part of the evening, in my opinion. Firstly, if you're new, we want to get to know you better. So we've put on a Zoom call straight after this live stream so that you can meet a member of our team. And as I said before, it's my very handsome husband, so show him some love. And we'll be sharing the link for that at the end of the service. So stay tuned. We don't want you to leave without us getting to know you just a little bit better. And the other notice is just to let you know that next week we are having a break because it is half term. So this is the last week of our series at the moment, and we'll be kicking off a brand new one in 2 Wednesdays' time. And the best way to stay up to date with what's going on is to check out our Instagram. So thec3_YA, and we will let you know everything that's happening in good time so that you can tune in and get involved. So you may be wondering why I'm doing links today. I like to think it's because they thought, who else, who better to introduce Emma Marsh than me? Emma Marsh is one of my closest friends, and I've known her for 3 years, almost to the day. We have lived together, we have had the ups, we've had the downs, and I can say, fundamentally, she is the right person to be speaking into this particular subject today. If you've ever spent time with Emma, you will know that she has hospitality at the core of who she is. She is one of our incredible team here at C3 Cambridge, and she just makes everybody feel incredibly welcome whenever they are in the building. I love working with her in that setting because she shows me how it's done. And if you haven't experienced hospitality and she hasn't invited you round, don't worry, invite her to your house and you'll still experience her hospitality. She comes to barbecues at my house and she gets other people drinks. She puts me to shame. That's not all there is to hospitality, obviously, and Emma's going to share a little bit more. So let's get ready to hear from Emma Marsh.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Esther, for that very, very warm welcome. And before we start, guys, I just want to take a minute because a childhood dream of mine has become a little bit closer to reality tonight in the fact that I am using a Britney Spears head mic. Yes, guys, childhood dreams do become reality. But alas, I am not here to break out into song and dance, unfortunately. Tonight I am here, though, to talk to you about being people of hospitality. Tonight I am here to encourage you that hospitality is something we are all capable of, no matter our resource or our gifting. Now, you might start to think, well, my house isn't big enough, or to be honest, I'm not that much of a good cook, so how could I possibly offer hospitality to anyone? But at its core, hospitality is an attitude. Yes, we all have different levels of spiritual gifts, but for example, you might not have the spiritual gift of prayer, but that doesn't mean that you don't pray. It's the same thing with hospitality. You might not feel particularly gifted in that area, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't live it. After all, Jesus showed us what it was like to live a life of hospitality, a life of welcoming those that didn't have a place to go, a life of welcoming those who were labeled by society as unworthy or less than, and a life of creating spaces for people to feel welcome and to feel loved. So, grab your notebooks tonight because we are going to dig into the Word and explore this topic together. In our endeavour to be more Christ-like, I believe that we can also be people of hospitality and mirror it as Jesus did. So, hospitality, it's not new. In the time that the Bible was written, it was so common to invite a stranger to come into your home. Inns were scarce and people travelled super long distances by foot. I mean, the journey that Mary and Joseph took from Nazareth to Bethlehem was 80 miles. That was 80 miles that they walked on foot. it's absolutely no wonder that people needed places to stay as they travelled. So inviting strangers to come and stay at your home in Jesus' time was no big deal. And then if we look at the early church, during times of persecution, it was crucial for people to host fellow believers. And as we look to 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 9, it says this: "Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling." Now, the original scriptures are written in Greek, and the translation for the word in the scriptures literally translates as lovers of strangers. We are not only called to be hospitable to those fellow believers, but also to all people. Jesus left us with 2 commandments. One was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. And the second was to love your neighbour as yourself. Now, of course, these days we don't travel those distances by foot, thank goodness, because I don't think any of us would be going anywhere. And so hospitality can look a little bit different. My grandfather is Greek Cypriot, and a huge part of the way that Greeks do culture is food. It's central to most celebrations and pretty much everyday life. So I grew up going to lots of big celebrations with my family that were all focused around food. And I'm telling you, it's the best type of food. It's that type that just keeps coming and coming, no matter how full you are. I'm talking bread, I'm talking cheese, I'm talking olives. Okay, I promise I did not come here tonight to preach to you about my favorite foods. But what I remember most about those occasions is how they made me feel. There were all of us gathered together in a room, crammed in, sitting on whatever surface we could get our hands on, whether it was a chair or the table or the floor. There was the sound of clattering plates. There was the sound of laughter, multiple conversations happening across the room. And of course, there was always that wholesome, rich smell of whatever was being cooked up in the kitchen. But above all of that, I remember how those occasions made me feel. I didn't just come away with a full belly, but also with a full heart. And it's that feeling right there, that's what I want us to concentrate on tonight, young adults. Hospitality is not just about the food that we eat, but it's about how God nourishes us as we are nourished by the people around us. It's about spending time with someone. It's about making someone feel loved, friend or foe, sharing stories, laughing together, being heard, feeling valued, having one of those moments that feel safe, one of those moments that just make you feel at home. That is hospitality. Now, yes, at its most basic level, hospitality is indeed an action. The Cambridge English Dictionary described it as the act of being friendly and welcoming to guests and visitors. But to take it a little further tonight, at its heart, hospitality is an attitude. It's an attitude that flows from the heart of those that have been called to love others, and it's an attitude that tells someone, you are welcome here. It compels people to stay a little longer. Hospitality is contagious, and it warms the heart of those it touches. It makes people want to come back again and again. And hospitality has the power to disarm people and let down their walls as they settle in. Ultimately, hospitality lets someone know that you care. So let's look at a couple of stories of how Jesus showed hospitality. There are so many stories in the Bible of how Jesus was friends with tax collectors and prostitutes and all kinds of sinners. But there are 3 stories specifically I'd like us to look at tonight. So first we're going to go to Luke chapter 5, and we are going to look at a story of Jesus calling a tax collector to follow him. So Jesus was out and about, as he usually was, and he came across this guy called Levi who was sitting at a tax collector's booth. And Jesus simply said to Levi, "Follow me." And up Levi went, left everything behind him, and followed Jesus. Now, Levi threw a great big banquet at his house for Jesus, and all the other tax collectors came there and were eating alongside Jesus. Now, the Pharisees heard about this, and we all know that they weren't massive fans of Jesus. So they went up to Jesus and asked him, "Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?" Well, Jesus' response to them was this: It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. So clearly, Jesus was happy to hang out with those that society rejected and looked down on. So for us, as followers of his way, we should be doing the same thing. And again, we see another example of Jesus hanging out with someone he had no business to in John 4, chapter 4. Here we find Jesus talking to a Samaritan woman at a well at midday. He gave the Samaritan woman his time and attention to someone who he didn't really have any cause to. He offered this Samaritan woman the life-giving water he had to offer. And as a result of this, many Samaritans from that town on that day were saved. So who knows the impact that our hospitality can have? Could you be the reason that somebody believes in the goodness of people, but while also leaving traces of God? And then, of course, there's the story of the Last Supper, where Jesus dined with 12 of his closest friends. But we're going to come back to that one later. So what does hospitality look like for us today, even in this COVID world? Well, hospitality can look like things like the smile that your bus driver welcomed you with this morning. Or maybe it was someone from the Connect team saying hello as you came into church on Sunday. Or maybe even you received a food hamper from the Love Your Neighbour team. Hospitality is so much more than just a meal. Over these last few months, we've seen people come together in so many inventive ways to live out hospitality, from driveway drinks to socially distanced street discos, which is a true story, it happened where I used to live, to doorway visits and even, I'm going to say it, Zoom quizzes. But how do we practically live out hospitality in our work situations, our home situations, or even at church? Let's take a look at work. Perhaps somebody new has joined your team. If you're there in the office with them on their first day, perhaps you could offer to go and show them where the coffee machine is. Or even in this virtual world, could you simply send them a message and say, "We are so glad that you're here." Maybe even offer to have a virtual coffee or a lunch hour with them. And then at home, how can you offer hospitality to those that you already live with? Well, something that I like to do for my housemate is I make her a cup of tea as she gets in from work. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't really strike me as such an act of hospitality. But what it does for her is it makes her feel welcomed and seen and cared for after a long day out at work. And then at church, what can you do at church to offer hospitality? I know we already have a Connect team, but what else can you be doing? Well, perhaps you see someone sat by themselves. Could you go over and introduce yourself to them, socially distancedly and with a mask, of course? Or if you see that someone's wandering around the corridors and they look a bit lost, can you ask them if they need any help? Usually you'll find people are looking for the bathrooms, which is always an easy one to fix. So what does hospitality look like in this COVID world? In this season, it can be found in the really small things. A simple welcome, a small hello, a cup of tea, or even, yeah, I'll say it again, a Zoom quiz. But it's the attitude and the heart behind it that matters the most. So to bring it back to Jesus and the story of the Last Supper. Hours before his death, Jesus dined with his closest friends, the 12 disciples. He fed them, he prayed for them, he washed their feet, and he loved on them. And he did all this whilst knowing that in a few short hours, Judas would betray him. Yet there was absolutely no difference to how he treated each one of them, even Judas. All equally, all with the same kind of love and grace that I can't even begin to fathom. Now, even though none of us here have sold out Jesus for crucifixion, we will have all done things that will have hurt and upset him. Yet, Jesus extends the same amount of grace and love to us as he did to Judas on that night. He sets a place for us at the table to dine with him. So, young adults, I have a question for you. Who is your Judas? Who has maybe hurt you in the past or upset you, caused you some kind of grief? Somebody that in all your humanness you want to say no to, but Jesus is saying yes to. Hospitality is not just an action, but an attitude. It is so much more than sharing a meal with someone. It's rather how we treat them, how we make them feel known, how we make them feel seen, and how we make them feel loved. We are called to love others, to show them hospitality, but not just to love the people who are like us, or even the people that we like. So I'd just like to finish with a prayer for us all. Welcoming God. Although we are not worthy, you invite us to be your guests. You lavishly offer us your hospitality and lovingly welcome us into your family, inviting us to share in the abundance of your kingdom. Open our hearts to make room, Lord, for the stranger, the friend, the rich and the poor, that we might be your hospitality to our world through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, I know you're going to go and have some fantastic conversations now in your groups, and I'm so excited, YA, to hear of the stories of how you have been going out and being God's hospitality in our world.
How good was that, guys? What a strong finish to our series. We are so challenged by that word from Emma. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what actions are going to come from that. You know, I was thinking actually as Emma was speaking, maybe next week being half term is a good opportunity, because now you've all got a free Wednesday night. Why don't you use that Wednesday night to be hospitable to someone, to bless someone, and maybe, as Emma challenged us, bless someone who maybe you know can't bless you back. Maybe you know that they can't offer you back to their house, but you're going to invite them over to yours anyway. Obviously within all of the guidelines that we must stick to. But how can maybe next Wednesday you take the opportunity? Maybe it's within your group, maybe outside your group. You can meet up with some people and show some hospitality next week. But we hope you guys have enjoyed this series. We're looking forward to having a week's break next week, and then we'll be back after half term with a special treat for you. Actually, we've got our Noughts to 30s Pastor Katie Campbell kicking off our new series, so we're very, very excited about that. But for tonight, if you guys are already part of a group, you'll know where you're going. You guys feel free to go and join your groups now. But if you're new, if you're connecting with us for the first time tonight, we are so excited to have you with us and have you joining us tonight. And there is a Zoom call that you can join now where you can get to meet some of our team and find out how to get a bit more plugged in at YA, find out everything that's going on here. And then we will connect you up with a group that you can join after half term. So do join that link that should be coming up in the comments now if it's your first time. Otherwise, head off to your groups. Enjoy talking all about hospitality and sharing some good stories. I've seen the questions. It seems like there's going to be some great questions tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing who those dinner party guests are. There's a little teaser for you there. But yeah, enjoy your groups, guys. We love and appreciate you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.